The 2021 Kumho Tyre New South Wales Sports Sedans Championship is proudly brought to you by Duggan Family Hotels and these valued partners. Round 1 of the Kumho Tyres New South Wales Sports Sedans Championship at Wakefield Park saw our defending champion not even make it to the race meeting after dramas with the Fiat 124 during qualifying. It was a great battle out in front. Chris Jackson coming to drama after contact with another car late in the race. That ultimately saw his tyre go down, and then he would take no part further in race 1, which ultimately hindered a bit of his championship charge. Race 2 saw Duggan and Steve Lacey come charging from the back of the field after Lacey had dramas in race 1. Those two pushing their way through, and you can see some great battles from the pair of them. Unfortunately for Lacey though, after he charged his way through, you can see he gets a little bit too ambitious on the wet curb, and that rotates him off into the grass, making his job a little bit harder to come through the field yet again to try to pick up those all-important championship points. Ultimately, damage to the car saw him retire from race 2. Duggan continued on his way, the safety car for Lacey helping him out as he got up a few more positions. In race 3, Lacey tried to waste no time charging through, while Nick Smith got the RX-7 back out and running as well. A few tech dramas for those guys across the weekend. He was having a great run through the field before a little bit of a drama onto the back straight, which ultimately saw him retire from the race. Lacey and Duggan picked up their battle from the previous race before Lacey charged through and managed to get himself past Bill Chetton, our leader for the round. Duggan with dramas at the final corner, also retiring from the event in the final race of the weekend. It was Bill Chetton though who picked up most of the points to be able to lead the championship into the second round. Saturday dawned with incredibly wet conditions for competitors at Sydney Motorsport Park. Qualifying was undertaken on a drying track but still very wet lines, you can see from Scott Cameron's third place Toyota 86, the William Thurcher car, the car care. Second place went to Nick Mantikos in the Mark II, putting down a 148.8141 lap. But ultimately pole position went to Steve Lacey in the Real Dairy Australia Lederer Shopping Centre Camaro.
Look, it was a bit greasy out there, but we had the right tyres on for the track, so it was good. Look, I think I've been obviously the opportunity of driving this car for quite a while compared to some of the other guys in the grid. And getting out, and yesterday I actually took the car out on slicks in damp conditions to get a feel for how the car's balanced. So by the time we put the wets on it for this morning, it felt quite good out there. Yeah, pretty much you've got to play it by ear. The car's sitting on its wets at the moment. We've had another storm blow through. We're about probably an hour away from making a decision now. If it stays the way it is, it's a good possibility we'll go out on slicks. But you just chew these tyres to bits once you get that dry line out there. But conversely, just the rivers makes it very difficult on the slicks as well. So, yeah, it's not really a toss of coin just yet. We'll just keep an eye on it. The way these storms come through, they're just so quick. They come, they go, but they do leave us with a wet track for a good 20 minutes afterwards. And if you're on dummy grid, it's just the luck of the draw what you got on. I think our round 1 issues are sorted. We've checked it, and yes, the fuel cap is on. So that's why we had to move from the back of the field at round 1. And just pushing a bit hard, I guess, in the conditions in race 2, because obviously retired from race 1 with a fuel cap. Race 2, pushed hard, ended up in the grass, pushed hard again, ended up with a blown tyre. So consequently ended up at the back of the grid for the last race. I guess in our favour, we had brand new tyres for one race, so it was a nice screamer from the back.
Anyone you want to thank or anything?
Yeah, look, the usuals I'd like to thank, which is Lederer Group and Real Dairy, the sponsors, and Steve Vigers from Steve's Toy Shop putting the car together. Again, as usual, great little car. It's our second pole in 2 rounds, so very happy with it.
Taking a quick look at the qualifying results then, and it's Steve Lacey who leads the way with Nick Mantikos, Scott Cameron, Daniel Nolan and Phil Ryan rounding out your top 5. Opening race of the weekend, the heavens opened again. You can just see down on the outside of turn 1, Dave Atkin in the Kumho Tyres BMW. Unfortunately a non-starter for this race. It meant that we started with a couple of laps under safety car, which is where we also lost Nick Mantikos in the Mark car. Unfortunate electrical dramas for that car, meaning that they had to pull out. You can just see the wet weather. Bill Chetton running the wiper on the front of the Camaro, a new addition, obviously seeing the team planning for what was coming. The weather was known to probably going to be affecting Sydney Motorsport Park's round for a couple of weeks out, so the guys all trying to do the best that they can to make sure that they're ready with the conditions. On board with Bill Chetton, you can see Phil Ryan running a little bit wide. Looks like problems for that car though as he started to plummet down the field in the tyre-powered Blaney Nissan. You can just see here on board with Ben Mannix overtaking him as well. Ben Mannix having a great round, starting to come through the field after qualifying a little bit further down the top 10. Out in front, Daniel Nolan was leading the way in the early stages. The 1JZ Mazda RX-7 having the upper hand on the V8 Chev Camaro of Steve Lacey on board with the Real Dairy Australia Lederer Property Group Camaro as they come round through the back section of corporate. And you can just see how hard all of them are having to work in these wet conditions. There wasn't actually rain falling from the sky during this race, so once you didn't have anybody in front of you, there was no problem with rain due to the spray. It was all due to being behind other cars. And you can just see once Steve Lacey got out in front, the Windex on the window starts working. He's able to start pulling away from Nolan pretty quickly, actually. The main straight power of the Camaro, of course, the big V8, a lot that these cars can do about it. Fred Axissa with a spin around the back section of the circuit, and the Holden driver would go out of the race pretty shortly after that. So obviously dramas with that car once he ploughed through the mud. Taking a look further down, you can see the 95 RM Motorsport car of Graham Smith. Him and Rod Monahan, the two of them in V8 Commodores, had found the wet weather to their advantage and were able to put the power down and battle with some of these other cars. It was keeping Ben Mannix pretty honest up in front. Also just behind them was Mark Bodib in the BMW GTR. So this was a good little battle during race one. You had three different cars, all V8s, all fighting up against each other. You can just see as they come out of turn two, there's that spray and just a sheen of water on the racetrack as well. With no real breeze, it wasn't really lifting away from the circuit. And with so much rain at Sydney over the last couple of weeks, all of the grass being waterlogged meant that unfortunately there wasn't a lot of places for the water to run, so it tended to just stay on the circuit or puddle up next to it. You can see those puddles and rivers across the final corner. Ben Mannix doing all he can to keep behind Graham Smith in the Commodore. You can see some opposite lock as he came onto the straight and around the back section of the circuit. You can see Ben just turning off the wiper there on the run down the straight. So obviously not a problem with the spray, but look at the rooster tails. Even these cars at the speeds they're doing, seeing the water pulled away from the track surface and flung up in the air. That's why it's so hard to follow. And we saw a fair few gaps start to open up between a few of the cars. Mannix doing all he can to hold these two behind, who are keeping a pretty good amount of pressure on him throughout the race. Good to see some of the division cars having some great battles as well. Look at them all slide out of turn 5. And that's going to give Graham Smith the opportunity over the hill into turn 6. Looks like he may well get there. He does. And into turn 6, Graham Smith takes the position away in the number 95 RM Motorsport VE Commodore. So that put Mannix under pressure from Bodib. He's going to have a look to the inside of the final corner. Mannix trying to run a bit more of that go-kart high line, stay away from where everybody always runs, because of course when you're running a circuit you start to wear away the grip edges of the rock base, or the tarmac base, sorry, as Bodib gets down the inside of Mannix down into turn 1. So not the best of laps for Mannix, losing a couple of positions there. Those guys making a return to Sports Sedans. Great to see the diversity out there. Out in front, battle for second position. Nolan starting to come under pressure from the Winmalee car of Scott Cameron. Scott jumping in Will Birch's car for the weekend and absolutely loving it. Look at this, he's going to try to go around the outside in turn 1. It's a long way around to make the move there. He doesn't quite make it stick, and he has to tuck back in on the exit of 2. But it looks like he's going to be trying to make that move on the final lap of the race now. So he's going to throw everything he can at Nolan to see if he can get past as they come up over the hill at the final complex. You can just see sitting in behind, coming towards the flag. There's actually a lacking a bit left in it for this one. As he looks to the inside, he's not going to quite get there at this point, so he's got to try it one more time down into turn 1, and this time he looks to the inside, but there's a yellow flag out there because Bodib has actually pulled to the edge of the circuit, so the BMW GTR is not going to make the finish of this race. One man who is going to make the finish though with a very comfortable lead. He's got 5 seconds on those battling cars behind it. Steve Lacey coming down to pick up a victory, picking up where he left off from round 1 with a race victory, and that'll be well for his championship charge. You can see there the results. Steve Lacey, Scott Cameron, Daniel Nolan, Beryl Chetton, Rod Monahan rounding out your 5. We'll be back with more Sports Sedans after the break. Welcome back to the Kumho Tyre New South Wales Sports Sedans Championship, proudly brought to you by Duggan Family Hotels. You can see the sun is out for the second race of the weekend, held on Sunday morning in Sydney, as the big field of Sports Sedans comes down through turns 1 and 2. Scott Cameron trying to take the fight up to Steve Lacey. Beryl Chetton right in there as well. He's been able to jag a couple of positions off the start with this dry weather, these guys should be a little bit quicker here now as the 1JZ RX7 of Daniel Nolan down the inside of Chetan, just in behind Paul Beauchamp. He's had a fantastic charge at the start of the race. Beauchamp not taking of race 1. He's not back out there for race 2 though, and the big red Corvette is looking to make some moves. You can see down the inside of Bill Chetan at turn 6. He makes it, he gets it done on the Pro IT. Billy's Motorsport Chef Camaro. Birrell just dropping a little bit early. He'll come on strong later in the race as Ben Mannix goes down the inside of Rod Monahan in the V8 Commodore. The Commodore's not able to fight with some of these higher powered machines now that there's a firm dry line around the circuit. Of course, that means these guys can get the power down a bit more and find a bit more pace as now Nolan looks to the inside. You've got to be careful though. You can see there's a dry line, but it's still a little bit greasy around the circuit. It looked like Paul Beauchamp went wide there at turn 2. Nolan trying to hang around the outside of Scott Cameron now, side by side from the pair of them, and look at that, Nolan up into second place. So in second and third, we've got 2 chassis cars, and we've got space frames first and fourth. Pro IT, Billy's Motorsport, sorry, Chev Camaro coming under pressure from Mannix now. Mannix in another chassis car. And it looks like the LS-powered RX-7 is reveling in these conditions. He's got himself in front of Paul Beauchamp, you can see just behind, and now trying to work on the back of the Camaro. We'll look for the drive here, gets to the inside though you expect. Yes, look at that, Birrell Chetan just starting to walk away on the straight. Just a few more horsepowers under the front yards there. Out in front, Nolan starting to put pressure on Steve Lacey. So not what we probably would have expected as Nolan. Oh, look at that dive to the inside. He's tried to have a look and Lacey's taken the line away. You can see how though for all of these guys they have to be careful. There's plenty of rivers across the track. They've got to make sure they don't light up the rear wheels and cause themselves a mischief as they come around one of these corners, maybe getting a little bit too excited as Nolan puts as much pressure as he can on Steve Lacey. But on the run down the straight, you can see how they lose out. It's the safe zone from the final corner to turn 2 for the 2 Camaros. But everywhere else, they're just as fast and under pressure as Nolan down the inside. That's going to be a move. He makes his own here. Turn 4 at Sydney Motorsport Park, and he's done it twice on 2 Camaros, this time for the lead of the race. So now he'll look at getting his head down and trying to run away before they get back around to the front section of the circuit as Scott Cameron starts to put pressure on. You can see there Phil Ryan in the number 2 car. Now behind Rod Monahan. This is the Division 2 battle. Phil Ryan back out there after a few dramas with the car in race 1. We saw him pull to the outside, had a couple of engine dramas and was having to make sure to keep himself out of the way and unfortunately out of the race in the end. As we go back on board with Ben Mannix, who's in the thick of this battle still. Bill Chetan, Paul Beauchamp right there. 3 different designs of cars, all running V8 motors. They're battling hard out at Sydney Motorsport Park today. The Duggan Family Hotel, round 2 of the Kumo Tyre New South Wales Sports Sedans Championship. Of course, a huge thanks to Duggan Family Hotels for their support. As Beauchamp down the inside locks the rears and rotates the Camaro. Corvette, sorry. Not sure if there was no contact there. You can just see from the rear view of Mannix's car. But I think he may well have compression locked the car as Mannix gets it all lit up out of turn 5, trying to get the drive to get past Paul Beauchamp. Doing all that he can here at Sydney Motorsport Park to pick up the Chev Camaro driver. Here's a replay. Big moment there for Mannix. He goes back up and gets in behind Birrell Chetan. As you can see here, Steve Lacey losing out to Scott Cameron on the run out of the hairpin. So Scott Cameron picking the pocket of Steve Lacey here out of the hairpin. And he's been able to pick up that position right before the safety car came out for Paul Beauchamp's car. So that was a good move by Scott Cameron. And now as we go back to green flag running, he's down the inside of Daniel Nolan. They've all been able to steal a charge on Nolan here into turn 1. Nolan obviously just needs that little bit of gap on the V8s through turn 1 and 2 and then he's fine, but he's lost out now to Steve Lacey and Scott Cameron. He's got himself to the front of the field with 2 impeccable moves. Down into turn 4, here goes Nolan again. We've seen him do this before. 3rd time's a charm and he gets down the inside of Steve Lacey. So now Nolan with a bit of work to do to try to chase down Scott Cameron, and Lacey and Chetan finding themselves in a position they're probably not used to late in the race here at Sydney. 3rd and 4th place here in round 2 of Duggan Family Hotels, Kumo Tyres New South Wales Sports Sedans Championship. Of course, thanks to Duggan Family Hotel and all of the partners of New South Wales Sports Sedans for all of their support in season 2022. As we take a look back at Rod Monahan, who's coming under pressure from Theo Camburis. Camburis in the VL Commodore. Oh, brake lock up in the rears there as they come into two. I think he was caught out by the greasy light on the inside. You can just see it there, the sheen of the light from the sunlight, and Daniel Nolan caught out as well at the final corner. That's going to give Steve Lacey the opportunity. Here he goes, blows past on the straight, probably helped and aided by Nolan's little adventure at the final corner in that water that runs across the circuit. So for Nolan, he's now going to have to try to see if he can stay with the leading couple, as now Lacey has closed the gap hand over fist. He looks to the outside of Scott Cameron. This is the final lap. They're coming to the flag in this second race of the second round, brought to you by Duggan Family Hotels for the New South Wales Sports Sedans Championship. Steve Lacey, though, throwing everything at it. Cameron just needs to run to the line. Look at Lacey close the gap, but Cameron knows he's safe. He gives a little weave across the track and he takes the victory in this second race of the weekend. So taking a look at the results, it's Scott Cameron, Steve Lacey, Daniel Nolan, Bill Chetton and Phil Ryan rounding out your five. We'll have more Kumo Sports Sedans after the break. Final race of the weekend for the Kumo Tyres New South Wales Sports Sedans Championship, proudly brought to you by Duggan Family Hotels this weekend at Sydney. And you can see as we start the race, the two Camaros back at the front of the field. Behind them, Scott Cameron and Nolan, who have had an impressive weekend. Phil Ryan's charged back through as well. He's up into sixth place in the race. And then the big red Corvette has already charged himself up inside the top 10. That's Paul Beauchamp. Keep an eye out for him as they come around the back section of the circuit. Steve Lacey with a huge moment there. We saw Mannix have it happen through turn 5 in race 2, and it looks like Lacey's been able to find the water out near the lines as well. But luckily for him, he's not been able to drop a position. Paul Beauchamp's picked up the spot on Phil Ryan. You can just see Tony Saint in behind as well in another Mazda RX-7. He's had a bit of a quiet weekend, Tony Saint, but hopefully he'll get a good result in this final race as Bill Chetton to the inside takes the lead away from Steve Lacey. Lacey's going to have a look back at him here. Looks back to the inside at turn 2. Great racing from the pair of Chev Camaros. Now that it's dry weather, they're able to open up the taps and get away from the field behind and reignite this battle, which we've seen for so many years. It never gets old. It's always brilliant racing from the pair of them. And at the moment, the Real Dairy Australia Letter Shopping Centre's car sitting in second place. Taking a look back at Scott Cameron and Daniel Nolan, who are behind Paul Beauchamp. He's been able to get past the pair of them, probably on the run down at the straight as well. So Paul Beauchamp up into third place. Scott Cameron holding off Nolan. Nolan with his traditional now look into turn 4, and he's able to make it stick as well. Cameron's going to try to hang there, but he hasn't got anything to be able to throw at Nolan. So Nolan in the Nolan Motorsport Nitro car gets himself up into 4th place. Scott Cameron, our race 2 victor, drops to 5th. This is a bit of what happens in the dry weather conditions with the chassis versus space frame battle. Also the fight between cars. Once you get two cars battling, you slow down a little bit. You can see Nolan struggling to get the power down out of the final corner. A little bit of a slide in the RX-7. And then the power of Scott Cameron. He's going to blast back past him. And he does. So the Widmerley Car Care car getting back up into 4th place in the race. Willem Vercher has built an absolute weapon of a car there, and Scott Cameron using all the tools at his disposal to be able to get himself back into position in this fight. Back at the front, you can see the two leaders have got a clean air behind them, and now Lacey looks to the inside. He pulls the Real Dairy Australia car to the inside of Beryl Chetton in the Billy's Motorsport Pro IT Camaro and takes the lead back. So now Lacey back to the lead of this race. We'll see if he can charge away here. No doubt he'll get the head down now and try to put some fast laps in, and we'll see if he's able to bring home another victory. He's already got one this weekend. Of course, a second place to go with it, so it's been a pretty good weekend for him after the disaster of round 1, where he lost out on a fair chunk of championship points and gave Beryl Chetton the opportunity. We'll go back and look at Theo Camburis and the Brindabella Motorsport car of Spiteri, John Spiteri. These guys battling just on the edge of the top 10. Division 3 cars against each other. We always see great fights from them. Rod Monahan looks like he's just in behind as well. Spiteri trying to chase down Theo Camburis in the V8. Oh no, Steve Lacey is slowed. So Lacey in the Lederer shopping group. Real Dairy Australia Camaro, he's just not able to get the drive, and after opening up what was a massive lead over Real Chetan, he's going to lose it all here. The run down the straight, just listen to the car. Yeah, you can hear it's really struggling to pick up the fuel. There's some sort of problem there. We'll have to see if Steve Lacey continues to drive it to the finish in this final race of the weekend for the Duggan Family Hotels, second round of the Kumho Tyre New South Wales Sports Sedans Championship. Of course, huge thanks to Duggan Family Hotel for their support. If you need a hotel, make sure to check them out and support those who are supporting the Kumho Tyres New South Wales Sports Sedans Championship. We've got a great battle for what is now third place in the race, and it's Daniel Nolan up against Paul Beauchet. Those two fighting hard while the Division 3 cars continue fighting. Spiteri and Kamuris still battling it out. We go on board with Kamuris, and look at Spiteri around the outside. That's the four-wheel drive advantage through turns 3 and 4. He's very wide on 4. Kamuris being quite gentle there to give him some room. But Spiteri picks up the position. So now Kamuris with all the work to do. You can see those puddles. They've got to be careful of them out of turn 5. And across the hill into turn 6, where it almost looks perfectly dry down there at the moment. So what a tale of weather conditions here this weekend as Kamuris looks all over the back of Spiteri. We'll see if he can do anything here on the run down the straight. The V8 should be able to charge on past here, and he's going to pull to the inside, and sure enough, look at that, plucks another gear. Spiteri tries to just move him over slightly to take away the ideal line in turn 1 and 2, and then down in turn 2 he's still ahead, and oh, he's had a spin. Kamuris having a spin, trying to pull the car out of what was already a yellow flag zone with the Dave Atkin Kumho Tyre BMW there, taken on board with Kamuris. I think he was trying to just sit on the rear quarter of Spiteri through 2. Wasn't able to stay there, just locked the rears. Unfortunate for Dave Atkin as well. The Prime Race Tyres, Kumho Tyre BMW, a huge supporter of New South Wales Sports Sedans, and he's had a very tough weekend. Spent a lot of it parked down in turn 2. So no doubt that team will be looking to find and diagnose the issues with that car and come out stronger at round 3. Back here at Sydney on August 6 and 7 as we take a look at our leader, Bill Chetan. He's going to bring it home and take the checkered flag from Scott Cameron. We go back to this battle for 3rd place, where Daniel Nolan has been able to get himself past Paul Beauchet. So the 427 Chev Corvette. Oh, he's off the road on the run to the flag. Obviously trying to get the drive to see if he can get himself back past Nolan, but unfortunately for him, that's going to settle the position. So taking a look at the result, Bill Chetan, Scott Cameron, Daniel Nolan, Paul Beauchet and Phil Ryan rounding out your 5. Phil Ryan winning Division 2 as well. We caught up with him down in the pits.
Phil, first of all.
Mate, thank you very much. It was a long race, that last race, but it was good to get through in the end, yeah.
So describe the difference from yesterday to today. You guys look like you were sweating pretty hard.
Yesterday was fun. It was first time most of us have been on serious wets, in serious wet conditions, and it was fun. Qualifying was good. I qualified in 4th or 5th, I think. Started the race though, and I jammed a throttle body on turn 6, and yeah, I had to pull out, so I was do not finish. So today I had to start at the back of the pack for race 2. Got through to 5th in race 2, and then managed to hold 5th for race 3. So yeah, really happy with the weekend. Car went well. Everything was good. I'd like to say thanks to Tyre Power, obviously. Win Malee Car Care, best man for tuning and building a motor. I can't do it without him, to be honest. He shouldn't hear that. Blaney Smash. There's a couple of others, and especially my wife, Rebecca. Thank you.
Well, at the end it turned out all right, but to begin with, it was wet, and we were dicing if we should go out on wet or dries, and so for the first 2 races we went on wet tyres. It was tyres that we've never tested before, so it wasn't the best result that we got, but you know, we finished both races in 4th place. We started the first race on 8th position, and then got to 4th. And second race we started 4th and finished 4th, so which was good.
And the conditions yesterday compared to today, how did you go? Did you feel you were way better in the dry, or was it fine yesterday?
Well, in the morning we decided to go out with wets again for the second race because the wets were very hard compound, and I think everyone else went out with slicks. So it worked out all right. We finished 4th because we started 4th as well. On the second race, we put a green slicks on it, and won the race, which is good. Well, first of all, I'd like to thank my sponsors, which is Pro IT and Billy's Motorsports. And I also like to thank my family for being here today. They've done a lot of work behind the scenes, especially my two sons and a lot of friends, because we were short on team because of COVID reasons. So they were very helpful. Without them, obviously, I wouldn't be here. So and also thank everybody else, Kumo Tyres, and all the other drivers for having a good race. And it was good. We had a good weekend at the end, and the car's still in one piece. That's the most important thing, ready for the next ride.
Well, we hope you've enjoyed all the action here on Blendline TV from the Duggan Family Hotel's second round of the Kumo Tyre New South Wales Sports Sedans Championship. The season now heads back to Sydney Motorsport Park on August 6th and 7th for round 3. We hope you can join us there. Until next time, bye for now.